Ola, how are you?
I'm doing great, John. How are you doing?
Now, wait a minute. That is not your normal background. So, where are you in the world?
I am in Edinburgh, Scotland today. Yeah, lovely. One of my favorite cities ever. Um,
Wonderful.
yeah, here just with traveling with my niece, which is a lot of fun. We're just here for a couple of days to enjoy what is actually some glorious weather here in Scotland. So
Well, thank you for taking the time out. This is fun. We can't do the John and Ola show without the Ola, so this is amazing. We've got an awesome guest today. I'm super excited. It's a personal friend. I've known her for a decade now. The CIO of Camping World, Shruti Putnick, and we're going to bring on right now.
Hi,
Shruti,
guys.
how are you?
I'm
hi,
doing
Trudy.
great. Hi, nice to meet you and nice to see you again, John.
Good to see you. So we've got a lot to talk about. I mean, Shruti, you are a leader in technology and digital. Tell us a little bit about that journey. I know you spent 20 years at Ross. So how'd you get into technology at a young age, or what got you into being a CIO?
Yeah, I grew up in India. I grew up in the eastern part of India where it was so unsafe for a little girl like me to go from point A to point B that I always needed a male member of the family, like my dad or my brother, my uncle, to accompany me. In that environment, John, I had a mother who made me believe the sky was the limit for me. So, in a very restricted environment, I was completely unrestricted with my thoughts and my dreams. So, I went to high school and I wanted to study engineering. So, I went to the university, told them I wanted to study mechanical engineering. They looked at me and said, "Not quite. Those are mainly for guys. They are for boys," as they told me. So I was a little unhappy and I picked electrical engineering and power electronics. And I came home and I told my mom, "You see that electric pole outside our house? I'm going to climb up on the pole. I'm going to fix the things. I'm going to tell them I can do everything they told me I couldn't do in mechanical engineering." So that was my first start into technology because we studied microprocessors. I was more interested in learning the zeros and the
Mm,
ones behind the computers. And then
mhm.
eventually you get exposed to technology and coding and all that fun stuff that comes with it. So I left engineering school, worked for one of the very, very foundationally sound, extremely good company called the Tatas. It was called Telco or Tata Motors today. Started in the IT department. And 3 years into it, one day, John, I said, "Mom, I'm going to the US. That's where technology is happening." So, so I packed up my bags, landed in LA airport, and just ventured into the tech world in Southern California and then in Northern California, where I live today.
Wow,
Wow.
Sruti, you have had what a remarkable journey in
Thank
so
you.
many different ways, and breaking glass ceilings and glass walls, and just that's really fascinating.
Thank
And
you.
now you're really a leader, in digital, not only in camping world, but also well known within the industry. There are a lot of women, I think, who would be very interested in your story, but I wonder what kind of advice would you give a woman today starting on a journey such as your own, or maybe even just starting on a journey into technology in
Yeah.
today's world?
And not just for women, but also men getting into the industry. I would tell
Mhm.
um, them a couple of things, a couple nuggets from me, from my experience going through the journey. Look for a mentor. Look for somebody who is passionate about seeing you grow.
Great
And I will
advice.
tell, yeah, I will tell you, there are people out there. Oftentimes I've seen people say, "Oh, but she's an SVP or he's an EVP. He's too busy. I can't reach out." Reach out because they are very giving. Those mentors are very giving people. They will look forward to helping you out. Sometimes we just build those boundaries in our head. Look for people who truly believe in uplifting you. Attach yourself with someone who's rising. You will rise along with them. So that would be my first nugget there. The second thing I would say, especially for women, but it's true for men too, don't let anyone tell you it's not hard. It's not that hard because it is. It's hard being a working woman. It's hard being a working parent. It's hard juggling multiple balls, especially if you are the primary caregiver. And many a times, women are the primary caregivers.
Yeah.
The pandemic was crazy, cooking, cleaning, homeschooling. 49% Ola of women in the US and Caribbean islands left the workforce, and it's going to take the US 5 to 7 years to build it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you see those numbers. I've lived through it. I know how hard it was. But somehow people just convince you and say, they tell you, you got to figure this out. It's not that hard. Get all the support that you need because it is hard.
Oh,
And
it's very difficult. I so agree with you there. And you're right. I think I think we're almost preconditioned to think that, buck up, somehow, ooh, just power through. It seems to be this thing that people want to put their arm into rather than recognizing that what we need is support. And part of that support is a recognition of the challenges that you're going to face, but also seeing that others have met those challenges, advanced, even against those challenges.
That's
So
right.
that's why I think your story is so powerful.
Yeah. There's one thing that I tell women, young women growing up the corporate ladder, right? You start straight out of school, then you go up the corporate ladder. The ladder looks great. You get promoted. Nobody tells you there's a broken rung in there. And for me, and it's common, the broken rung could be childbirth. It could be caring for aging parents. And that's when it feels like you can't do it. And you just need that one mentor, a friend, a coworker who can just hold that hand and help you just jump that hump, that broken rung. But nobody told me. And oftentimes that's when women fall off the workforce. And if you just help them get past that broken rung, then you have that pipeline of women growing through the corporate ladder and growing into positions that brings in diversity at the top.
Yeah. I think it's pretty astonishing the story you shared with regards to your childhood. You would think that that is from 100 years ago or more, and it's current, and it just kind of puts it sets us back a little bit to take a humbleness of we've got work to do as a team, all of us,
That's
and
right.
when you think about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, it's a buzzword, it's all the terminology, but Trudy, what does it mean to you? And then how are you utilizing that, as being a mentor, maybe to others or in the corporate role you have as a leader? How are you incorporating DEI into kind of the workforce as a leader?
Yeah, I'm going to say this, and you will never call me for this John and Ola show again. It feels like BS. To
Yeah.
me, it's BS. And I'm going to just say it because I'm sure there are people thinking about it. In 2019, we had the 1819, right? We had we had the Me Too movement. We had the situation with George Floyd. There was a lot of pressure on CEOs to go out there and create this DNI group. There was pressure from the board. There was pressure from the consumers. Consumers wanted to work and buy goods and services from companies that invested in diversity. I'll share with you some stats. 18% of the employees have lost trust with their employers on DEI efforts. 60% would leave a job or not take a job due to racism today. Colored
Wow.
workers have dropped their confidence by 12% year over year. So what has really happened, why I use that strong word there, is people started down this journey because there was pressure. Not all companies, but many companies just did the bare minimum to check the box.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate part of this. 60% of D&I leaders, John and Ola, that were hired in that 18-19 timeframe have moved on to other jobs. Not moved on to other D&I jobs. They've changed professions.
Change
Because,
professions. Wow.
yes, because what has happened is organizations did the bare minimum. They just did something to check the box so people, the consumers, their own organizations saw an effort. The sincerity was lacking.
Yeah,
So I
sort of a
think, look, I
DEI,
think
sort of like a DEI greenwashing. I mean, made it appear potentially, but not with the governance structure, the measurements to ensure that what they were doing was actually having a result within the organization. I think we see some of that starting to become a reality in some areas, particularly again, I'm in Europe. And so I see that a lot in the European Union, in particular with their ESG practices and their recognition that just saying that we want to do something about diversity, social consciousness, or those sorts of things just aren't really going to be sufficient without some measurement around it, some governance around it to ensure that companies are doing more than just saying that they're doing something, and that the employees actually feel the result of those efforts. I wholeheartedly agree with you, but those figures are stunning and really troubling.
Yeah.
Well, so let's think for a second. At least the three of us, I hope, can agree that the concept of DEI is important.
Of course.
And so maybe what it is that we need now a 2.0. And it's that the idea that we attempted this. So Shruti, in your eyes, in your vision, if this was working correctly, what might someone in your role, what would a CIO, at Camping World, almost a $7 billion firm, what are some of the things that you might be doing to try to help in regards to diversity and inclusion?
Yeah. For me, it's all about the sincerity behind that intention, right? Not just checking the box, not just doing the bare minimum, right? And that comes with sometimes having to have the courage to make it quantifiable, sometimes having the courage to walk away from a situation, a hiring situation, a recruitment situation, because you're like, yeah, it'll take me another 2 months, but I think it is important for us to hire diversity, right? And so for me, all of that has different flavors. You can put measurements, you can rate yourself to those measurements. You have to have the courage to say, I'm going to share these quantifiable measures. There are lots of companies that do it. It's still in the minority. But more importantly, John, it's everyday life.
Yeah.
It's everyday life. I will share this example, right? I was in a meeting right before this call. I was having a one-on-one with my direct report, and she was like, hey, there's a person in our organization, baby's due in 30 days, had an emergency situation. And I told her, go tell him it's okay to take time off. It's okay to do what is necessary to support his wife as the delivery date comes in. Because oftentimes it's as simple as that, John. They need to hear it from us, and we need to act it. So while we need to solve world hunger and the bigger things, it starts every minute of our day. If you keep it center stage, it works. And I always say this is something that I've engraved, and it's right there hanging on my wall, right? If inclusion is in your DNA, diversity will follow.
Yeah,
It's
interesting.
That's a great statement. And I think it's a cultural thing in terms of it being behavior oriented, it being a lot about unspoken rules that we already have within our environments, not even recognizing that those rules are there, really, or people presuming that a rule exists. In your example, someone assumed that there was probably a rule that said I couldn't go take some time off to handle that situation. When indeed, it may be that the organization was attempting to change its corporate culture, but just hadn't made it very clear to the employees.
I think the word you used was presumption, right? There is no rule, right? Everybody knows they can take a sick leave or PTO, but there is that untold unspoken
Unspoken.
assumption or culture. And I'm excited to be working at Camping World, and that was a very important point for me when I made the decision to work at Camping World, is do they really care sincerely? And I have felt it every day I've been here, and I will continue to do wherever I am, remind people that it's important that we talk about it. It's important that we make them feel it's okay. And it's something that I will walk that talk. And if I walk the talk, my organization will believe in it.
Sri, tell me a little bit about, that's a great point you bring up, Camping World. That interview process, I mean, you spent 20 years at Ross, super successful, grew there. You've got to make this change. What was the interview process like? I know you interviewed obviously with the CEO, Marcus. What was that process like? And what were you looking for to make sure you understood there was that connection point with Marcus Lemonis and his team there? What were you looking for?
I had met all of Marcus's direct reports prior to my interview with Marcus. I remember one day, I'll share this story first, right? I had interviewed, I took my job, first day on the job. I'm walking down the hallway. I can see Marcus coming from the other side. So I walked up to him, extended my hand to say, "Hi, nice to meet you, Marcus." And he's like, "No," gives me a hug.
Aww.
For me, that is who he is.
Yeah.
Right? How often do you meet a stranger and they give you a hug and say, "Welcome to Camping World," right? And I just share the small example because that sets the tone for the culture in the company. And I've seen that every day I've been here on this role.
Wow.
Cultures are not built bottoms up, we know, right? Cultures are built top down. And that one thing really changed how I felt as a new person walking in through that door, right? And I see that every day, how he cares. If you walk into a Camping World store, if you've not been to one, you walk in and it'll say, I'm paraphrasing, right? "Customers, please call Marcus," and there's a phone number there. And I'm telling you, customers do write to Marcus. It's not, an eye wash there. And Marcus responds to them. That is the care he has for his employees, for his consumers. I know that because I'll get an email from him saying, "Hey, this customer has this issue. Can you take care of it?" And we do jump on it. And that is real. For me, that's what I was talking about earlier, the sincerity.
Yeah.
And it's the unspoken part, right? You feel it, you know it, you've experienced it. You've experienced both sides of the coin. That was an important, and I feel that with the leadership team.
I think what you said too is important, Sruti, as well, in that it's across both the employees as well as the customers.
That's right.
That would seem to be the most natural thing, because it's the naturalness that comes through in terms of culture, and your business is obviously a very customer centric kind of business at Camping World. So I'd imagine that customer experience is a big part of what you do. How does technology play in that landscape? In the landscape, either with the employees and or with the customers?
I'm going to make one comment to an earlier statement you made. I think whether you are in the Camping World business or you are in any other business, right? It's all about the consumer, right? So irrespective of what business, you care about your consumers, you care about your customers, you care about your employees. So I think that's true for any industry where you're selling a product or a service.
Yeah.
At Camping World, think about it as sort of three pillars, right? We obviously sell the RV, which is our main business. We sell things that get into the RV. You sell the furniture and you sell the oven, or everything that goes into the RV. And then you sell some services, the non-tangible one, extended warranty, roadside assistance. We call that Good Sam subscription, discounts at camping ground. Holding all these three pillars together, overarching, is we help people build memories, right? When they go camping and in their RVs. technology plays a very big role because our job, and I say this all the time to my team, Ola, we don't do IT for IT's sake. I strongly believe in this. We are IT. We do IT for business sake.
Yeah.
So every moment, every process, every interaction, whether it is with our internal employees or whether it's with the end customer, my job is to make that experience better to best, right? Our
Yeah.
industry sometimes has paper. We have paper. We are trying to get an appraisal done for an RV. We have to get some contracts signed when you're selling something. We've got to get different processes, and sometimes you have multiple systems. The first example was impacting the customer. The second one is impacting the employees who are working very hard every day in our dealership to sell that RV, to sell that experience, that sell that hope for a great memory building effort. And my job is to make their lives better. So there is technology every aspect of our business process.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too. As the IT for business, do you think that was the theme 10 years ago, Ola and Shruti, or do you think that's, more current, that businesses, the CIO is kind of sitting closer with the CMO, the CFO? That's not been the norm 10 years ago, right? That's newer, right?
I think that's definitely, though, the trend that I see. And Sruti, what you're talking about, I think, is there's lots of nomenclatures we can use around it: customer centricity, product oriented, verticalization. There's lots of ways in which we talk about what is really at its core business alignment. And it's about this. There's starting to be, or not even starting, we've lost any real boundary between what was technology and what was business. It's now so deeply entwined, the two things together, that it's really becoming even harder to even separate them. And I think we need to lean into that. And I think for some time, potentially as an industry, we maybe didn't lean into it. We maybe said, oh, no, those are two separate things. But I think we've had to, lean into it a little more.
I agree
Yeah.
with you, Ola. I think, John, you're absolutely right, right? Many years ago, IT did not have a seat around the table.
Didn't.
IT was seen just as a cost center.
Yeah.
Just as a cost center is definitely what has changed. IT is now seen as an enabler of the business. During the pandemic, that role got even more solidified, right?
Yeah.
So I think IT has gone from my own journey. Like, you had to fight to get that seat around the table. I've seen it myself. Going from IT being just a cost center to a phase where you can be a successful company if you're not a tech company. We've seen
Yeah.
that phase. And now we are also in a phase where IT investments can be monetized, right? We've talked about, we've seen Walmart and Go Local, where their infrastructure, their supply chain is being monetized for smaller business. So I think that's the next wave. And I look forward to riding that wave and doing the same here.
You're relatively new, obviously, there at Camping World. I mean, few months in. Are you already starting to get ideas with regards to the art of the possible at Camping World, with regards to maybe things, and you don't have to give any secrets away. Of course, we'll talk about it in a year. But are you thinking about some ways technology can have a positive impact on this business moving forward? Are you excited about it?
I am super excited about it. I think this is is it May? Yeah, this is my 5th month on the job. I didn't have 5 months. I was like in there determining that on week
Day
2.
one.
Day one,
Yeah.
week 1, week 2. And I love that about it. I mean, that was one of the exciting things about coming to Camping World, to this role. I'm the kind of person, if everything is ticked and tied, I would die of boredom. But like any new CIO, right? You're learning, you're implementing, you're moving things all in parallel. Like, I use the analogy, it's a car going at 300 miles an hour, and you have to figure out, is it time to change the tire while it's still running? Do you need to change the accelerator? Do you want to change how things have been to take the IT organization from better to best, and all of that while the car is still running. And I think that's exactly what I've been doing, understanding it and figuring out how slowly to bring about the changes so that you don't cause the car to stop in the middle of the freeway and break down, right? And when I say slow, it doesn't mean the velocity of what I do always is slow. It's being thoughtful, because some things you have to do fast to bring in the change, and some things that you have to do slowly, because if you do it with very high velocity, you might end up bringing that car to a halt. It's a balancing act.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not easy.
I
That's for
talk to
sure.
clients. I talk to clients a lot about this idea that not everything needs to be at the highest rate of speed in what you're doing in your business. It all has to do with not just how quickly you can do things with technology, but how quickly the business needs to respond, and how they need to respond, as far as consumers go as well. Yeah, that's really fascinating.
Now, something Ola's seeing a lot, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think this is what we're seeing is a lot of cost optimization in the marketplace. We call it optimization rather than cost takeout. Cost takeout impacts customer and employee experience. Cost optimization tends not to. Is that something that you'll be working on with your management team? Are you looking at optimization as something that's an important theme, or is that something that's not really kind of on the radar at this point?
That was my to-do on day 3. I told you what I did on day 1. Now it's you. Now you're talking about day 3 there. Absolutely, John, right? And I love the fact that you use the word optimization and not cost cutting. That's exactly what is top of mind for me. And I'm focusing on that literally from day 3. And as you come in as a new CIO, again, right? And you lift the hood and you're like, what can we do? I mean, we all from 2022 into 23, right? The economy is softer. Nobody can hide behind that. It is the reality. And as an IT person, as a CIO, my job is to figure out how to enable the business needs in this economy, but in the best cost optimized way. Sometimes you have to reduce and steal something from something that's there to fund something that is more important going forward. Sometimes, we may have done something because it made sense 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago, may not be the best way in a cost optimized world to do it going forward. So how do you bring that change in? How do you bring that change in mindset? I'll share with you what I shared when I was traveling last week. I was with my team in Bowling Green, and I told them, every dollar you spend for the company, you should think about that dollar being in your wallet.
Your own wallet.
Would you have spent that dollar if it was in your wallet? And so we were having this fun conversation. We were out at lunch, and somebody suggested, hey, this is not working. We should look to upgrade the product and maybe go to the cloud. And so I said, why is it not working? They said, oh, we're having some issue with the data, some integration. I said, yeah, we should look at why the data is having an issue and then figure out why the integration is a problem, right? And after I addressed that tactical thing, and then I looked at him and I said, you bought a car. When the car hiccups the first time, do you go buy a new car?
You go buy a new car?
Nobody does. Exactly. So what you do is you take them to the mechanic, and if you're good at it doing it yourself, you go figure it out. You might have to change a part. You might have to change the tires. You may have to, oil it, whatever that is, right? You don't go change a car. So why would you change the car here?
Yeah.
And what hit home, I remember finishing that conversation, John, and then I was in the hallway. Somebody came to me and said, the way you said it made sense. Right? It's that change in mindset. This is back to my first statement, right? We don't do IT for IT's sake. We don't bolt software and hardware for IT's sake. We do it for the business. We enable it for the business. So if you're not going to buy a car when the first time it stops, why would you do that with a company asset or company product, right?
We're going to have a whole nother show on the move to the cloud, Shruti. Absolutely. This has been an amazing conversation, so thoughtful. Thank you so much, Shruti, for being on the show. We hope to have you on again, maybe in a year, so you can tell us some of the fun things you're doing. And I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here, and good to see you both. Take care.
Yeah,
Right.
thanks,
Take care.
Rudy.
Bye-bye.
Very inspiring. Thank you.
Ola, wow.
Isn't she inspiring?
Yeah, that conversation spanned it from, an area of a tough childhood up to leadership diversity and then thoughtfulness around technology and cost optimization. How many shows cover that spectrum, right?
That's a pretty large spectrum. But what was interesting is it was all interrelated.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that was there was really related to what's happening in technology today, what we see happening in most organizations, or what I see happening in organizations, whether it's, yeah, we've got to do cost optimization, but we can't allow that to get in the way of employee experience, of making sure that we enable our diversity, goals within our organization, and make sure that we're continuing to transform and become more digitally relevant within our business arena. So really, just again, very inspiring.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I can't wait to have our next show. It's going to be a lot of fun. But until then, have a great time in Edinburgh.
Thank you very much. See you soon, John.
See you soon. Bye-bye.